and I love your figurines in the background.
Oh, thank you. So, everyone, you can hear who's talking right here. I'm so excited because I am joined by the one and only Elena Kampouris, who plays Chloe on Jupiter's Legacy. Before we jump into this, make sure you've watched the whole season first. We're going to be talking spoilers and then come back to this interview. So, Elena, first off, how are you doing today?
I'm better now while I'm meeting you, Steve. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh,
Thank you for taking the time.
of course. I'm so excited to talk to you. I just saw from other interviews here, and you have such a exciting just presence about you. And I was like, I got to talk to this person. And it's interesting too, because you bring so much of that to your character of Chloe here in Jupiter's Legacy. And I'm wondering though, when you first dived into this character, was there, a pressure you felt making sure you got it right out of the gates? Like, cause it's from this comic book, it's going to be a big fandom. How did you feel going into it?
Well, Steve, yes, there's a big fan base behind Jupiter. Of course, there was a pressure that I could tap into because Chloe's under a lot of pressure in the show. But of course, with having a very passionate fan base, you wanna do the role justice. You want to bring it to life in a way that satisfies people. Because I know when I've been saying it's a lot, like when I read stories or get attached to certain material, you picture the characters in your mind. Like I feel like there's an internal movie going on when I'm reading books. So I'm like, I get it, and especially when you have the comics, right? You've got the illustrations that are pulpy and glossy, by the talented Frank Quietly. So when you've got that already established, it's like, you hope to do a good job. So there was that going into it. But what was lovely was to have the actors, to have Mark, weighing in and giving input and feedback and stuff as far as the inspiration behind Chloe. So there was a lot to play with and sink my teeth into. So I'm hoping people will, like Chloe and her journey and connect with her, because she also kicks butt too.
Hell yeah. And I think what people really like about Chloe is she has such an awesome look about her. She's very fashionable, being a model. So for that, was there any inspiration for you for her look from other sources of media or TV or movie, or was it mostly from the comics?
Well, the comic plays a big part, but there was a lot of discussion. Like, first we have this whole element of Carrie Fisher inspiring her as a character and what her, growing up with very famous parents and feeling that pressure. So there's that element. Then we had some Edie Sedgwick, aesthetic vibes going on the mood boards I was seeing from wardrobe, which I was all for that. What else? I'm trying to think. Again, she's a fashion model, so the clothes, everything played such a huge part in also putting on, because she doesn't wear a costume, right? She's not about a cape or a suit, so that's kind of her uniform in a sense, anti-uniform. So the second I put on that wig, just as a whole, like the wig itself, immediately I felt myself get very. The attitude came out, and I'm like, oh, I'm walking differently. Chloe is, she is appearing. She is among us. But another aspect, just because I can't help but say it, because I'm a very proud Greek girl. In case you don't know this, Steve, I couldn't help but draw parallels to also Greek mythology and equating the characters.
Sure.
Like, what would her? Because these characters, these superheroes are almost like, they're walking amongst these mortals. Some have powers, some don't. So in looking at the gods and goddesses, who would she be in that realm? And I kind of feel like she's an Artemis. The owl is her symbol. She's independent, an independent spirit, doesn't want to be constrained to the status quo and what's expected of women. And then I feel like her brother is a bit of Apollo and Icarus. So there's some parallels, and you've got our dad who's a bit of Zeus. So I could go on. There was a lot to play with because she is such a complex, intricate character to play.
Yeah, no, and naming all those things that you see inspiration for this character and you bring to the screen so well. Did you find though any of Elena herself in Chloe?
Well, Steve, I want to know first if you found any of yourself in Chloe, because that's what I hope for. I know personally, I felt like, okay, she's very temperamental, right? And she reacts in big ways because she's such a passionate, sensitive. She's almost like one of the most human of the bunch, She's so deeply intertwined with her emotions and what she feels. So her impulsivity and her kind of inability to sometimes make rational decisions, like she's very impulsive. I did connect to that sometimes, I try to control that. So I kind of got to let it go, let it rip when shooting this, just unleash. But there's many aspects. Also, she has a big sense of loyalty. And even though on face value, you'd be like, no, she doesn't. She's not even fighting with her family in the Union. But that's what's making her be in this painful place we meet her in, is because she knows not being a part of the Union is hurting the people she loves the most, but she just can't do it. She's not built like her father is. Yes, she's headstrong like him, but she's too real for that stuff, like putting on this persona, this cape, and being like, I'm here to save the world, I'm all perfect, which she's like, I know people will see through this, and she's not about, she'll know other people will see her as a fraud, but beyond that, she'll feel like one. Yeah, if that answers.
No, that totally answers. That's an amazing answer. And it's interesting because she, like, you're giving all these emotions and feelings and thoughts she has, and it really shows well in how interesting the character Chloe is. But you also mentioned her father, Sheldon, here. So my favorite line Chloe has in the season actually is in episode 2, when she's actually, they're always bickering, her and her father, but she says, the only way out of the loop is for me to stop being me or you stop being you. Do you think Chloe truly thinks is the only way for them to ever really have peace?
Beautiful question, Steve. I'm so impressed. Like you're just pulling out all the stuff I had. That's an excellent. I love that scene. That bagel scene between myself and Josh was super fun, because it really is the crux of the issue of how they just can't communicate. Like they're saying words to each other, but this power struggle of the power, like each one trying to assert their will and what they want to do. Chloe trying to just forge her own path and be comfortable in existing and being in her own skin and just being happy. They've lost the means of like they're saying words, but no one's really hearing the other person. And when she says, I have to stop being me, you have to stop being you. I think it's her just coming to terms with the fact that she's losing her father. She's lost her father. She's had to come to terms with that her entire life, of him being absentee, both of her parents being too busy saving the world rather than saving the deteriorating relationship between herself and them and their kids. So she's kind of accepting this and realizing, wow, how are we going to go forward? She's crying out in ways. She's crying out in that conversation. She's crying out when she's on billboards, because it's a way of saying, like, accept me, see me, recognize me. And I don't even know if she's fully aware she's doing that. So I think a lot of it is like, she's just trying to get through to him, but she's seeing how kind of futile it is, especially in that moment. And this is what pushes her to isolate herself emotionally. She goes into drugs and drinking and alcohol, like partying and all this stuff, because it's a means to stifle that and numb the pain.
So speaking of that part of Chloe's character, that's more of the darker side here, and where the tragedy kind of happens, where we see in episode 4, it really leans into Chloe's character and all the devils are here. And I'm interested in this line. Chloe responds to Jana saying, Brendan can't be him and you can't be her. I don't have friends because I'm an asshole. So this happens right before your character overdoses. Yeah. And I'm wondering, as an actress, how dark of a place did you have to get into for a sequence like this? And in a sense, is it scary?
Yeah, it was that scene. No, that whole episode was so, like, there was a lot leading up to it, and I was very excited, but I knew, like, okay, the stakes are high here for her, and especially with her arc and where I knew she would go in the comics, I'm like, okay, this is important to really get it across of where she's at. She's dealing with so many insecurities, severe loneliness, depression, abandonment issues, trust issues, where she's feeling like, nobody actually wants to know me for who I am or connect with me on a real level without trying to get to my dad or the Union. So I think she's just at this point where, and then you've got her brother as well, who probably was the only kid growing up that she could really relate to, because he was in the exact same boat as her, having parents that weren't there. But then they drifted apart because he's just getting, caught up in trying to faithfully follow the dad in this code, which is just, it's an impossible kind of, again, a futile pursuit. But I think, that there was so much, and a lot of research to do, a lot of, like, also talking to friends of mine who were generous enough to talk to me about their struggles with addiction, and kind of seeing, like, okay, it's how it matches to where I was approaching, like, where she's trying to hide her pain, where it's all coming from, the neglect she feels, the guilt she feels, and the drugs and all of that is a means to sedate those feelings, but it only heightens everything more for her. It's not an elixir. It doesn't take care of anything. It only, it just kind of, it just worsens everything for her. But it's a lot. It's a lot to go into.
No, yeah. I mean, look, you're giving the fans what they want to hear. Really, just into this complicated mind of Chloe, an insight into it, and it's really exciting to see how much you love playing this character and how well you know this character, and it shows.
Yeah, because at this point, Steve, she's like she's like, I think what you're getting at too, what you're making me think of is like, she's pretty much like ready to die in a sense. Like that's how low she is. She's like, I don't even care. Like she doesn't even care about her life anymore, at the point where she's like, I have nobody cares about me. I'm seen as a jerk to everyone when I'm just being I'm trying to keep it real. I can't put up this facade. And then she hates herself because she's on billboards and modeling, and it's like she's against selling out in the union, yet she's selling out modeling. So it's like, pick your poison, pick your sellout. So she knows she's being a hypocrite at the same time. So there's so much she's navigating, and that's what makes her so lovely, because she's so layered. She is not just one thing, you know.
Yes.
But she's also strong at the same time.
Well, speaking of that, her also being strong too, like I think what's really exciting is towards the end of the season when she comes in, has this badass moment where she rescues Hutch, and they're in this like chamber with no oxygen. And there's some really cool, you know, stunt work here. Are you doing your own stunts? Because I know there's a fencing video of you on YouTube, and you also had a martial arts training video on Instagram. So I'm like, she must be doing this, right? Or was it actually somebody else doing that?
I love martial arts. I have a background in traditional Chinese ballet. That's what started my love for Chinese culture and learning Mandarin and singing and the arts. So this was, whenever there's a film that is intertwined with that, I get super excited. We learned a lot of like different forms of martial arts, including wushu. But we did have a wonderful stunt team. My stunt double, Alece Rosano, lovely, talented Italian girl who, she makes me look good and does like a really intense stuff. And she was actually, I was shooting in Australia for a majority of the year, working on 2 projects, one of which is a Stephen King horror, but the other one is actually a sci-fi samurai movie. It's on hiatus right now, but we're going to be continuing it at some point. But she was like coaching me, teaching me bojitsu, and that was what that video is. It was in preparation.
Sure.
So she teaches me bojitsu virtually, and I sing to her in Italian as a thanks. I'm like, "Ho sbagliato di ormai che lo so già. Cos'è la vita senza l'amore? È solo un albero che foglie non ha più." I just go through all the roster with her as a thanks, because we became like sisters on this shoot, and she does like the real intense stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole, but I like to do what I can, because I mean it's fun to kick butt, and you know, obviously we're not actually kicking real butt, but you know, we're flying, we're doing all kinds of different things. It was fun to conquer my fear of heights when we were in the harness, you know, doing the flight stuff.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of different elements to the superhero training.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You mentioned fear of heights. I have a fear of heights as well. So
Steve,
proud of you for beating that. Good for you.
Benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, I get dizzy spells, nosebleeds. Like I've had moments when I was doing Dangerous Liaisons on Broadway. I had to do a costume change so quickly, and was taking a corset off, like in a quick change.
Sure.
I had a nosebleed on stage. The whole scene was dizzy. The room was spinning. So it's been a terrifying, nearly debilitating fear of mine, but I overcame it. And I believe you can too, Steve. One of these days, you got to, when everything's back to normal, we got to get you in a harness. We're going to get you flying, and you will conquer the world.
Yes, I can do this. Thank you. Switching gears a bit, though, I have to ask, talk to me about the sloth family you have. Are any of them joining us today? Because I noticed on Twitter you shared a picture. Oh, okay. Which ones are those?
So we've got Daphne and Fiona here. I hug them to me whenever I'm in the interviews. I can't help it. We're doing the junket. I just like, it's like I realized, oh shoot, I've got like a security blanket thing, but I don't mind it because they give me emotional support. I've got my blanket here too.
Wow.
Rest of the family, then they're all over the house. They're my spirit animals, Steve. What about you? Come on, throw it at me. What's your animal?
A zebra, 100%. I got it. I have a zebra blanket. It's in the other room right now, but I got to get a zebra family like you got this whole family.
We should wear our blankets together at some point. We're making a thing. Yes. And you have to send me a picture, okay? I want all the zebra memorabilia, okay?
Oh, you know it. My last question too before I let you go. I've had such a fun time with you. So I want to know, you have such an amazing personality, and everyone watching this interview who didn't know you yet and then watching the show are going to be like, oh my God, like this is amazing. So would you ever do some sort of podcast or YouTube type show just with Elena, like talking?
Well, maybe if I was doing it with Steve Varley, I could do that. Because I don't know. I'm not good. I'm not opposed to anything. I'm always driven by the passion. You know, if it's learning language, sign language, singing, like whatever it is, like that speaks to my heart, I'll do it. And you know, it's who knows. I never say never. But I think we'll have to do some kind of podcast action. I hope we get to meet in person, Steve. If this goes too quickly, and you know what we need to do? We need to commemorate this with a little screenshot. Okay, on the count of 3, we smile and we say, Varley. 1, 2, 3.
Varley.
Oh shoot, I messed that up. Oh, we got good pictures.
I got you covered. No, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me, Elena. Everybody, I mean, if you're already here watching this, you've clearly watched Jupiter's Legacy. Watch it again. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's on Netflix now. Follow Elena on Instagram and Twitter. She has a great profile and account to follow. It's so much fun.
Oh.
And Elena, I hope to talk to you in the future.
Steve, I want to meet you in person one day, and I want you to sign this picture. I have a thing wherever I work on movie sets, I take the seat cover and I have the crew, the cast sign it like a yearbook. And I also do that with reporters. Like I try and take pictures whenever I find moments. And when I meet you, you sign it for me. Okay?
I will. I promise. But you guys sign stuff for me too. When they come out with the little Funko Pop of you, you're going to sign it for me, okay?
Oh my God. Because I watched your videos and I saw Harry and Lloyd and I was like, are we going to see them today? And I'm pretty sure that was Harry and Lloyd that you had. And they're not
It was.
there. Oh,
It was.
Dumb and Dumber with you.
I'm sorry. There were too many. I'm sorry.
Swenson Samsonite. I knew it started with an S. Give me a quote. Give me a Dumb and Dumber quote before we go off. We need.
Oh my God. Pull over. No, it's a cardigan. But thanks for asking.
For noticing. Yes. I feel like we would go to town with these movie quotes. Steve.
Oh hell yeah.
This is happening. We got to connect on social media and stuff. Never forget the sloths have witnessed it. I'll be waiting for the zebra pictures, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, Elena. Have a great rest of your day.
Lots of love. Bye-bye, Steve.
Bye.